I'm tapping another video. Now, I wanna speak again. I'm gonna go a little bit forward talking about Philando Castile and George Floyd, men of color who were slain within about Philando Castile about 3 miles of where I live, and George Floyd about 5 miles of where I live. And this is not to be flippant about their loss or to associate with those poignant, salient, and unfortunate episodes in American history, for the sake of it, but also just because I think I may have bear a little bit of testimony that would speak to some of a deeper take on how what those may constitute or teach their loss, and then also some of my experience would just be would be a correlation, not a cause of what they experienced, but a correlation and attendant of what they experienced being a person of color as I am. So what I was saying is that in a video series that I made within the last few days, I was referencing that some people they may read the Holy Bible and see this word principalities and not understand what it means, how that it's spiritual, that it doesn't have to be spiritual, or how it can be spiritual, or how it can be mundane. All of life can essentially be spiritual because, as according to Tantric Bay, when you refer to spirit, you're referring to breath. In India, I met a person from India, and we were having a conversation, and I was referencing certain insights that I had about Indian culture from being familiar with the works of Arthur Avalon, and that man was impressed, and he said, where did you pick that up? And he said, what's that book called? Because I was speaking about things that he grew up with and knew. It's interesting when you learn about other cultures and meet people from there. I also read a book that speaks about things that Arthur Avalon would talk about from the take of an Indian man named Swami Vivekananda. And I was walking abroad in public with that book in my hand at a shopping mall. That mall is about maybe about a mile kitty corner diagonal from where Philando Castile was slain, where I had a lot to do around that area when I was young. But I was recently there, and because I was looking for a pink bandana. I had the idea to get a bandana, so I was looking for a pink bandana at that mall, and I stopped by a fragrance store. And I started becoming a frag head, a fragrance connoisseur around the time of going into the pandemic. And then but then I came to appreciate I came to appreciate what oils are, and that oils are some of the nuance of fragrance, and that it doesn't have to be like necessarily alcohol based like a lot of our like cosmetic mass produced fragrances. So this store at a mall, Rosedale Mall, I'm gonna point that out as significant to what I'm talking about. It has a well-to-do suburban area, Rosedale. That was like a lot of my stomping grounds growing up. I don't mean to say stomping like I was having pull and rank, but just where I was wasting time at and getting punked out by different people had been Rosedale. But there was a woman there, a beautiful young woman from India, that I just walked in there and she was like, wow, I love your style. Like, oh man, that's so cool. I think I had the blonde extensions there. So she's like, that's so cool what you did. I have the guitar. And then I opened my mouth and I spoiled the effect. So she's like, oh, so like, dang, this guy's kind of cool, like kind of a badass. Open my mouth. Oh yeah, figures. He's put on the appearance. But then I actually had a book that got the respect back. And she's like, that's a great book. He was a revolutionary. Because actually that book explains that Swami Vivekananda, he was responsible for promoting Hinduism and traveling to the West, including the United States, in the early 20th century. And some of the respect and pull that Hinduism has as being respected as a world religion is partly from the contributions of Swami Vivekananda. And that's stated in his book called Yoga, 4 forms of yoga: Bhakti Yoga, Raha Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Kriya Yoga. Arthur Avalon references those forms of yoga, and he speaks about them, not so much Raha Yoga. Raha Yoga was the most interesting to me from what Arthur Avalon alluded to, and here this man speaks about it clearly. It's actually, you can be confounded and actually a little bit daunted and confused if you approach something by somebody who studied something but is not from a background, because as profound as Arthur Avalon is, and he also made provision for himself to make mistakes as being a student and a guest in the culture of India. You read the book by Swami Vivekananda, and he can say directly and clearly what you would have asked Arthur Avalon and what you didn't think to ask. But accordingly, Youth Day in India, I think, is named after Swami Vivekananda. So he's an outstanding figure, like similar to what we'd have as Martin Luther King. Also, Swami Vivekananda may have influenced Mahatma Gandhi. They're both from India. Swami Vivekananda was very influential. It's likely that he influenced Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi influenced Martin Luther King. A lot of what Martin Luther King achieved in the United States may not have been as potent as though he had not been he's not had the example of Mahatma Gandhi, that is nonviolence. Nonviolence itself may come from Mahatma Gandhi, and Swami Vivekananda may have been influenced by the Jaina people in India. They don't. That's not maybe put forward in on the surface, but most things came from somewhere. So as profound as Martin Luther King was and versed in the black church, a real leader of the black church, as the black church was in that want that is the habit of producing men like Martin Luther King, he would be a shining example. But there are many men like him that were produced in the church, in the black community, because of the strength, the wisdom, and the history of the black community. One place where black people were allowed to express their testimony about what they experienced in life. That's part of what actual real folk music is, that has informed all of our other iterations of black music, all the way up to and including hip hop music. First had been folk music, according to a book, Slave and Religion. And the essence of the black church, to my taste as a young person and in life, and in a lot of the things that win over the strength of that have been appreciated about that, is the sharing of lived experience, that is testimony. The older music, folk music, according to slave religion, wasn't necessarily righteous in itself or unrighteous. It could be like Boss Man going with somebody's old lady and doing a song about that. Boss Man, come around my old lady one more time, and Boss Man's gonna hear about it from me. Even though we're working out here, that would be like folk music, and it's not necessarily incredibly righteous or unrighteous. It's just real human experience. But it was only taught, it was only allowed within the context of Christianity. So it would have to be a little bit buttered up or geared towards like gospel religion, like to pass it off in front of master. Also, some of the testimony and the oratory, it had to have a religious overtone and veneer, but the deeper essence is that it's real lived experience. The sharing of game trails, insight, according to Judge Joe Brown. Human beings have always done that, but that's the essence of what the black church is, to my experience. The testimony, the oratory, the praise, both the music and the audience congregation, which are all of that is more so collaborative in the black church, similar to the fact that in Eurocentric society, according to Dr. Umar Johnson, there's salient distinctions in certain verbal patterns, including turn taking, would be more significant in European society. One thing that people of a Eurocentric background cannot stand is for someone to overtalk someone or to interrupt someone. That is very distasteful in Eurocentric society, as I live in a very Eurocentric northern society, the Twin Cities no less, where George Floyd and Philando Castile were slain. But in the black community, there's a more forgiving and a collaborative sense of talking. So if you were in a white church setting and someone gets hot and they're saying the truth, at that point you're actually hearing from the ancestors when someone hears the truth. When someone's really talking in Africa, according to Morris Brooklyn, your ancestors are only maybe 1, 2, or 3 generations back of your paternal ancestors, your father, grandfather, great-grandfather, as you bringing yourself back into and out of existence for eons is your ancestors. But broadly speaking, the ancestors are maybe bigger than your own family tree, and that's what's getting hot in the black church. But if someone were to shout you like, tell that, amen, I heard that, in the black church, that would get a person going. That's collaborative, talking at the same time. But in a white church, that wouldn't be tolerated, and you would be out of sorts, out of place like that. But the essence of the black church, I think, is that it's collaborative between the audience and the performer. But the worship, the oratory, and the testimony is real life, and that's what's significant. But I want to keep going with that.